never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life.
All right, Rob, here we are at the end of all things again.
That's right. Once again, the multiverse is in danger. We are on the eve of ruin. And you know what that really calls for, Matt, is a greatest hits compilation. I think now is the time that we really like revisit the good times and all of our favorite people and locations and really just
like
do
a
sort
Simpsons
of
clip show.
Exactly. A big Game Master Anthony's birthday to send 5th edition into the dustbin of history. Hello, everyone. It's Dungeon Master of None.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
And I'm Dungeon Master Rob. And we are talking about the newest and final adventure in 5th edition as it exists.
Vecna, Eve of Ruin is what it's called. And we're going to review it. If you haven't listened to one of Rob's and I's reviews before, we, take the approach that no published module is perfect. They all need tweaking. And it's sort of deciding, is it so little tweaking that you're going to have a lot of fun playing it because it's got cool stuff going on? Or does it not work? And if you wanted to make it work, it would be more trouble than it's worth. And that's kind of our general approach.
And so far, almost everything we have reviewed, there is something to take away from it. We don't always recommend that you spend actual money on, every single module, but a lot of them have interesting things. Many of them are flawed, but they're flawed in interesting ways. A lot of them have good ideas, and there's usually something valuable to be gleaned from reading these adventures.
And I don't think we've reviewed an adventure yet that has had this much hype attached to it. Rob, did you know that 5th edition is almost ending and we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of D&D?
A celebration of
sort of a celebration of D&D writ large. Celebration of
another nod to D&D's history.
A love note to D&D, like
It's
like
true.
50 years of D&D.
Love letter to D&D.
And it is a great celebration it is a momentous occasion.
Rob, it's a momentous occasion. It's a celebration.
It's a celebration of D&D.
Have you ever thought about celebrating D&D? I mean, what are you doing for the anniversary?
It's like it's a celebration in the same sense that the end of Evangelion is a celebration with everybody sitting in a circle and clapping and saying, "Good job, D&D! Good job!
Thank you,
Congratulations!
Shinji.
Congratulations, D&D!"
That's the penguin.
That's a big one. I got it. I knew what you were doing.
All right. So there's a lot of hype on the celebration. And Rob, do you know what we're doing to celebrate this one?
Do you have more clips for me?
Well, no. I mean, you said it all together. We're bringing everyone back, right?
That's right.
It's a plane hopping trip through.
It is a very much multiversal threat.
All of these settings.
The multiverse of the multiverse. All of the multiverse. Your reality and every other reality. Remaking of the multiverse. Remake the multiverse. The multiverse. The multiverse.
All of D&D lore.
In multiverse. Throughout the multiverse. The multiverse.
Location, multiverse, and universe hopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, the multiverse, Rob. It's your favorite place. Just so everyone knows, I got all these clips from a 15-minute video. I did not do that much work.
Amazing. Yeah, so here's the deal in sort of in broad terms what the adventure is about. Vecna, the evil archlich turned god, turned back to lich, turned god, is going to destroy the multiverse and remake it again, remake it in his image, unless our intrepid heroes stop him. And to do that, they have to go on an adventure through all of our favorite planes and multiverses to find the pieces of the Rod of Seven Wonders, the only thing that can stop Vecna from doing this.
Asterisks on that, but yeah, that's the broad overview of the adventure.
That is the objective. That is the in plain language what this adventure is about.
Before we get into spoilers, I think Rob's given a great overview. There's a lot of hype on this. It's a celebration. It's the epic level 10 through 20 quests to end the edition. A big threat. You'll see all your favorite little creatures. You'll see a porg. You'll see Chewbacca. Chewbacca will be there.
Glup Shido, he's there. They're all there.
Right. Dexter Jetster is in this one. It's pretty cool. He's in his 1950s diner. So there's a lot of hype around this one. And I think before we get into spoilers territory for anyone who might be playing in a campaign whose dungeon master might be using parts of this for their campaign, should we say our overall opinions?
Yeah, I mean, I try to, I don't know, I feel like we try to like save the big picture stuff for the end, but like I'm not going to be able to keep this under my hat while we go through this. So I want to sort of start with, I personally hate being pandered to. It really, really annoys me. It makes me, it's insulting, and especially when they're like, look, you like this shit. Eat it up, little piggy. And I'm sorry, like I'm trying like not to come into this adventure with, my heart full of ire, but that's what most of this felt like. It felt like, hey, remember that? You like that?
My big point is that, and I think we're going to then immediately get into spoilers, is the basic structure of the adventure is repetitive, doesn't allow for a lot of player agency, and will be unsatisfying to run. So regardless of whether you like or dislike being pandered to, it's just not a well-structured adventure module that will be fun to play at high levels. So nothing can fix that.
Leaving aside, the content, it is poorly structured, poorly written. It would be unfun to GM, and I think it would be very unfun to play in. I do think that there are moments of interest. I do think there are ways to fix parts of this, but this is not a good adventure. This is not a good campaign.
So, spoilers from here on out. Rob, I think you hit on one of the most interesting points of this adventure, which is by lead designer Amanda Hammond and designers Mackenzie DeArmas, Ron Lundeen, and Patrick Rennie, is a lot of the, hey, look at the thing that you've seen before, right? Hey, look, it's Lord Soth. Hey, look, it's a Spelljammer. And let me play you a clip by one of the designers. And I think the language they use here is illustrative of the approach taken to this tour through the lore of D&D.
And you know what? It's worth noting that not only do you get to interact on a recurring basis with characters like Illustrial Silverhand and Mordenkainen and Tasha, but there are other iconic characters who are present in the adventure within the places and the locations where the rod pieces are at and where the characters have to go to get the rod pieces out. There are some characters who are made allusion to, like Tiamat is definitely mentioned. She is most likely not going to appear on screen, but there are characters who very much do appear on screen. I think that DMs will have a lot of fun portraying characters like Lord Soth, for example, who shows up. Strahd shows up and is a pretty significant part of that bit of the adventure. And so I feel like anything that people are very much into individually, there's probably going to be something in this adventure for them. I hope so.
So in my opinion, the key phrase in this interview that is correct and accurate for this adventure is interact, right? This is an interactive theme park ride of an adventure through many different settings of D&D. Can players affect those settings or those characters? Can they kill Lord Soth? Can they win Tiamat to their side and their cause against Vecna? No, but they can see them and say hello.
Yeah, and I'm going hard on this, but like I'm not opposed to the let's bring in a cast of characters of familiar faces. That can be fun when done strategically. For example, Baldur's Gate 3 brings in Elminster and a bunch of other like Forgotten Realms big names, and it's fun because it's done tastefully. So like it's not just that they're like here's all these people you know. It's done in such a way that it's really just like I didn't see the movie, but it's like what they did in The Flash. They're like, look at all these Batmans, like look at all these Supermans. Like, you remember that? Like, look at this.
It's Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, there's nothing, you can't meaningfully interact. It's just like, it's like you're on, you're like on it's exactly like you're on a theme park ride, right? And you're going through Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland, and you're like, look, it's animatronic Johnny Depp. And like, that's the level of interaction that you have with Lord Soth and Tiamat and Strahd.
And this is my big point number one, which is this adventure, either in its like lead designers or editors or writers, has a fundamental misunderstanding of the place of canon and lore in D&D. My ominous bell has chimed. One, I don't think that most players or dungeon masters give a shit about any of this. Unless it's in their direct campaigns, who care?
Well, I want to pause on that too, because the sort of meaty center of this is Vecna, Kaz, Mordenkainen, Illustrial Silverhand, and Tasha. Correct me if I'm making an assumption here, Matt, but these are not characters that your average D&D player has a lot of enthusiasm or like for or attachment to. These Vecna was the big bad in like the 80s and 90s, like
in a bunch of adventures, which I do have to say, it's been a long time since I've read Vecna Lives, Vecna Reborn, Die Vecna Die. I don't think they're very good adventures, right? This
was we're going to get into this, but like the reason why Vecna became sort of like the big bad for the most recent season of Stranger Things is because those kids are playing D&D in the 80s when Greyhawk and Vecna were like kind of like the thing. But I just like, I don't like, my impression is that like the average D&D player is probably in their like 20s, early 30s now.
Sure.
And like, do they give a shit about Vecna? I don't think so. I'm not sure they're even going to know like who that is. I think leaving aside all the other characters who they also won't care about.
The other fundamental thing is like, no one cares about this lore. No one cares about lore in D&D. The basic point is there's no such thing as canon in adventures, right? It's like it's whatever you're telling your players, and sure, maybe this adventure is followed up from a previous one, but there's like a weird assumption that like the average table playing this has already played through 3 other 5th edition adventures, which I'm sure is the case for some people, but not all. And even for those some people, the dungeon masters have been different for those adventures. They might have played with different groups. There's no like, through line of lore. And then the second fundamental mistake is the approach to iconic names, right? Yeah, maybe the players know who Tiamat is, but there's nothing you can do with her. You can inform her, for example, that the world is going to end. Will she send you a bunch of red dragons to help you prevent that from happening, even though it would adversely affect her? No. Can you, I don't know, can you kill Lord Soth? No. No. Like, can you kill Strahd? Can you enlist Strahd to your help? Can you interact with the dark? There's the way is like you can say hello to everything. This is also true with visiting the various places. You pop in and you pop out, and you don't get a huge feel for how this is different, because this adventure is essentially like 13 dungeons. Connected by portals that set you down either inside or just right outside of those dungeons.
And each chapter in its each multiverse is very, very, very thin. And not only does it assume that your players are going to follow the rails that they're on and go directly to the dungeon, of which there is one in every single adventure, but it doesn't really, it provides no real assistance or suggestions for if the players are like, I don't want to do that. more than any other 5th edition adventure, you are very much on your own if your players decide to deviate from the rails that you are required to put them on. This is the most railroady adventure 5th edition has put out.
Yeah, I think the Planescape one that we've reviewed comes pretty close, but this one doesn't come with another source book that gives you other things going on.
Yeah.
So like you have no information. There's like no little hints or guidance to be like, what else is going on here? What else could the players do? So okay, that was my big point number 1. Like it's a theme park ride. Big point number 2 is that this is the greatest and most repetitive fetch quest of all time.
It's the most MacGuffinest MacGuffin that has ever MacGuffined. It's a rod. It has 7 parts, and you got to go find each part. And
even when you go find some of the parts, right? Like in one of the chapters, to find a part of the rod of 7 parts, you need to go find 2 other MacGuffins, use both of those to unlock that. Like there are sub MacGuffins in like the mini dungeons.
I'm starting to get a headache. Yeah, it's and like it's not even like interesting or fun. Like each part of the rod can do something, but it's not very interesting. And like once you put them all together, you've just got like, I don't know, your 20th level, and it doesn't matter all that much. You have a decently powerful magical artifact. Like it's not even like a fun thing to hunt for. And you're not and there's no reward. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hang on. We'll talk about the specifics, but to my mind, there's no reward to it because your players are not doing any like investigating. They're not doing any like
they are told rod, where it is, and a magic portal puts them there.
Exactly. The rod says this is where it is, and then a magic portal opens up and they go find it. Like there's no like excitement or interest. There's no investigation. There's no like them solving a puzzle. They're just like being led, like they've got like a ring in their nose, just like from one thing to the next. It feels very unsatisfying.
2 other things like undermine this as well. First off, the rod is not technically the whole thing is a lie. The rod is not technically necessary.
Right.
To
Sorry.
Vecna.
I completely forgot. Yeah. You don't even need it.
And the other lie on top of that is they were actually helping a villain all along to do this.
Yeah. This of all the things that don't make sense, this doesn't make the most sense to me. You meet 3 powerful wizards who need your help to defeat Vecna. It's Tasha, Illustrial Silverhand, and Mordenkainen. But Mordenkainen is an imposter. It's actually the vampire lord Kaz in disguise, and he's the one who wants the rod. This is very confusing to me.
Well, one of the things that is confusing to me beyond just the betrayal is we're never given like a really good explanation for how the rod will defeat Vecna other than Mordenkainen says it will. And then once, of course, we find that Mordenkainen is actually Kaz the betrayer, well, then that's off too. The other big picture... Wait, Rob, should we go into more big picture stuff, or should we get down to the adventure and save the big picture stuff for later? Either way is fine with me.
Maybe we should just start talking about the adventure because it'll start to make sense. But
all right. So the introduction, the players are already assumed to be high-level adventurers, around 10, but could be lower than that. This is the very first place this campaign let me down, because it would be really cool if there was a making adventures section where it gave you like a step by, in case you didn't want to run a previous campaign and you wanted to start at 10th level, a cool like guide for like how to create a high level adventure and like what you might have in your background. And maybe you get like one free magic item, Or since one of the parts of the campaign is like, hey, you're from all over the multiverse, maybe like a fun system where you could roll on a table or choose from a table and be from Eberron or Spelljammer or Ravnica, and maybe you'd get a cool bonus from that, and then you would know some things when you went to visit your world. There's nothing like that. Instead, we're back in the Forgotten Realms. You need to be in the city of Neverwinter.
You're given a little bit about, you're given D6 backstories and D6 reasons to be in Neverwinter, but that is it for character creation, and it sucks. I don't know. I was also disappointed by this whole thing.
The game begins with an after this character creation and background, with an intro dungeon. Lord Neverember, Lord of Neverwinter, sends them on a quest. And I was like, oh, this is actually interesting starting adventure. He says, 4 people have been kidnapped. I need you to go find out who kidnapped them. I'm like, oh, cool. So they do an investigation through Neverwinter. I can pull up my Sword Coast Adventures guide. Nope. He tells them, actually, I've already found where they are. You just have to go get them. They're in Halleck's Mausoleum. So the players, the one chance where there isn't a magic portal to tell them to go to a dungeon, they are told immediately to go to a dungeon instead of doing an investigation.
You hit the ground and are immediately sent to what is a very ho-hum dungeon, a very like forgettable crypt beneath a graveyard.
I
filled
thought
with cultists.
it was, despite not having any of the flourishes and tricks of being, hey, it's in a cool place, I thought it was one of the better crafted dungeons in the adventure. In that there were
damning
multiple,
with faint praise.
I know. I enjoyed that you could turn like water gauges, even though the mechanics describing them says it takes you an hour to figure out how to increase and decrease pressure in a water pipe. And yeah, you could like, there are opportunities for you to disguise yourself as a cultist and like sneak around, maybe play an elemental against a cultist. Like there was opportunities for creativity in the exploration of this dungeon that I think we're lacking in some of the other ones. So you go into a crypt, you fight some undead, you find a cult of Vecna who is responsible for the kidnapping, who is stealing secrets from these 4 Neverwinterian nobles. You interrupt the ritual and are cast, and then 3 things happen when you interrupt the cult's ritual. 1, you are cast into the Shadowfell. 2, you are linked with Vecna. And 3, you gain a vision of Vecna's plans.
We should mention there is a unique mechanic, I guess, in this adventure, which is related.
Where the unique mechanic starts.
Related to secrets. And you can learn secrets from people, and the secrets are, you can use them in the adventure to fuel certain things and accomplish certain tasks. They are basically like a currency. I actually think this is kind of neat. Invisible Sun has a system a little bit like this. I think it encourages people to talk to NPCs and find things out and investigate. Of all the things in this campaign that I was interested in, I thought this was a pretty neat idea. I do not think that it is very well implemented, but I think it's cool in theory.
I think so too as well. Mechanical subsystems can be good or can be bad. This one's simple enough that you can spend it to gain inspiration. If the players don't spend it, they can get some huge bonuses for the final fight, which they have no way of knowing about, which is a little strange. My main problem with the mechanics secrets, and so side digression from chapter 1 to talk about the sub mechanic, is I have 2 main problems. One, Rob, many of the secrets are not secrets. Can I read you one of the secrets?
Yeah, no. This is what I mean by not well implemented. But yeah, tell me a secret.
So this is from the Eberron chapter. Mercy is the leader of a band of Warforged pilgrims. Mercy was separated from their best friend, Filch. They feel guilty they haven't searched for Filch. That's not a secret. That's a feeling. They're feeling guilty. What's the secret they haven't told anyone? That they haven't searched for, that they feel bad about not searching for their friend? Are all feelings secrets?
That
Is
one's
every
so annoying.
feeling we haven't expressed to someone else a secret and therefore in Vecna's domain?
That would be an easy one to fix because instead you could just say Mercy left Filch behind. And that's the secret, right? Like Mercy feels guilty because they abandoned their friend, and that's like the dark secret that Mercy has. But like, I don't know, the writers like barely even bothered with this particular idea.
Yeah, let me see if I can find another one that I felt was particularly egregious. This is from chapter 2 or 3, I think. If the characters ask what's wrong, Gertrude reveals that her friend, named Roxana, was involved in a nearby mining operation and discovered that 2 of the operation's leaders were secret Lolth cultists planning an attack on the operation. Roxana was too scared to tell anyone besides Gertrude, and the Cyclops fears a terrible fate for the miners. That's not a secret. She told Gertrude. They both know. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Walter, am I wrong?
Getting back to chapter 1.
Okay, sorry. Wait, Rob, I have a second point about the secrets.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
If it's not going to cause you to throw your laptop across.
No, Matt, I could go on all day about the secrets. I just I feel like we should move on before I do that. But yeah, tell me the other thing.
Vecna is the god of secrets. Secrets are powering his thing to take over the multiverse. Shouldn't like the quest be to like uncover or steal like maybe like way more important secrets than these ones from Vecna? Like, wouldn't that be cool? Like,
that would be
that's
cool.
That's just kind of like obvious to me. Like, it's sitting on the table there. Like, shouldn't you like go to the Mournland and find a secret about it that Vecna has
yeah, or
I
wants
don't know.
or doesn't know? Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Back to chapter 1, everyone. Sorry.
So speaking of being pandered to, they interrupt this ritual and they're plunged through a crevice of dusk into the city of Evernight, a gloomy reflection of Neverwinter, an upside down version of Neverwinter, perhaps. I see what you're doing, WotC. I fucking see it. Like don't get cute with me.
I'll defend Evernight. Evernight's been in the lore since long before Stranger Things.
I know.
It is. You are going to the upside down. Here's why this part sucks. Not that you go to the Shadowfell.
Sorry, this part sucks for other reasons. I'm just complaining about that because I'm annoyed.
Let me summarize the plot of this as literally as possible. The NPC they get sucked in with tells them to go from the graveyard in Evernight to the Evernight marketplace. There they meet one NPC, the only one that is described, who then tells the players to go back from the marketplace to the graveyard. That is the adventure.
Yes, that's it. That's literally it. Here, listen to this. This is so great. They meet this guy, Eldon, and there's a little bit about him. And this is what the adventure says. There's 2 paragraphs. The characters have little to go on other than Eldon's suggestion. Other explorations of Evernight are both dangerous and fruitless, so you should eventually steer the party back to the market even if they venture elsewhere. The characters don't have other encounters as they make their way through Evernight's graveyard, though they hear howls and cries through the fog that let them know the graveyard isn't a safe place to linger.
Theme park ride.
Boo.
See,
Boo.
This is an interesting like arc. The characters are stuck in the evil Shadowfell version of Neverwinter. They have to find a way back home. A clever or good adventure would give you a map of Evernight, a couple possible locations, a couple NPCs to explore, and several ways back to Neverwinter. And the players can, go off and have their own adventures and figure it out on their own. Instead, they're told to go talk to an NPC who then tells them to go back to where they started and go through a crevice, which they do.
There's another short dungeon, the Dolendar Tomb, where apparently the Dolendars are a family and they're sad.
They were exiled to the Shadowfell. You cannot find out why they were exiled to the Shadowfell. It is impossible.
Yeah, you might think that there's something to find out here, or that they're important or related to anything or something. No, there's nothing here. There's no, you can't find out any secrets. You can't find out any information. They're not related to anything else in the adventure. This is just like an annoying obstacle to throw in front of your players before they get back to Neverwinter.
As a cherry on top, to get to the portal back to the material plane, they have to solve a language puzzle that involves pressing in letters that I swear to God, I have no idea how they could possibly know what the word is they're supposed to push in there. I read through it twice. I couldn't find it. Maybe I missed it. At least they can pick it as a lock, because they're going to have to, because how are they ever going to guess this?
I spent a lot of time reading this section, and I could not figure out if maybe they like left out the part where they explain the puzzle, but I don't know. Your players can either pick the lock or guess at the letters, but there's nothing in the dungeon or anywhere in the Shadowfell to tell them what the puzzle is. I've no fucking idea what's going on here.
Here's my quick rundown of small, interesting things from chapter 1. We're given no information if what the players want to do is something smart, like by level 10 adventurers, maybe stake out the cult's headquarters or the mausoleum and see who comes in and out. We have no idea who the Halixes are and why it's their mausoleum. One of the people they can meet and uncover their secret is a vision of a dreadful future. I'm sorry, a vision or a prophecy is not a secret. Great asshole GM stuff. There are 2 potions of poison labeled healing use.
Living healing. That's funny.
The cultists are called Memories of Vecna. The lieutenant is called Teeth of Vecna, and the leader is called Thought of Vecna. Shouldn't the leader be Thought of Vecna, the lieutenant be Memories of Vecna, and the cultist be Teeth of Vecna? I don't know. My favorite line in the dungeon was C24, empty crypts. This narrow doorway leads into a small empty crypt. These 4 rooms are empty. Are you fucking with me? Are you fucking with me right now? And you might be like, hey, an empty room in a dungeon is okay. Yeah, but there's no random table of Gugas and monsters or anything to fill it with. So it's just 4 empty rooms.
I want to... Sorry, finish your list.
No,
I'm
sorry, that's it. Other than like why is interrupting this ritual so fucking important? Like, I feel like it needed something more, because like this makes our characters the most special people to Vecna in the multiverse. And if Vecna has like millions of cults doing billions of rituals, harvesting secrets, why would this one being interrupted make the players go to another plane, be linked with Vecna, and see a glimpse of his plan? I just need like a little more thing to make it a weird magical mishap.
I have a precise gripe that begins with this dungeon and proceeds throughout the entire adventure. But the players are presumably 10th level, or they might be a little bit lower. This dungeon poses no challenge for a group of 10th level adventurers, like not even a slight one, which is not always a problem. But like, I suppose if this adventure were not going to bother being interesting, at the very least, it could be challenging, especially if we were going to be kind of like paying homage to the early adventures of D&D. But none of the encounters or puzzles will even like remotely stymie a group of 10th level adventurers. And none of the dungeons or encounters throughout the rest of the book will either, which really contributes to the theme park feeling. There's no, at no point are you going to fight anything or run into a problem that's difficult to solve. And so I don't know.
The thing about not being able to stake out the entrance, or for example, when they return from the Shadowfell and Evernight, they might be like, let's go back to the tomb and see if we can question some more cultists or take them to Lord Neverember, see if we can uncover more cults of Vecna. It explicitly says they can find nothing. And I think this is actually really good to have in this adventure because it's training for later. It's important to teach your player characters for this adventure not to try things on their own and to wait for you to hand them the next step. So that was a good addition. And then we're on to chapter 2, the Wizards 3. Hey, it's just like those wizards that went to Ed Greenwood's house. Remember?
So there's something potentially interesting here.
I agree.
To me, not really in the way that it's executed, but sort of broadly. So what happens is the players go and they do other adventuring, or they,
Or
they
you
might
can
even
hand wave it away and be like, a year passes.
Scatter to the multiverses, and then something happens, and the link to Vecna, well, Vecna comes back, yanks them all back.
He's returned.
Somehow he's returned. Yeah. Yanks them all back together.
A wish spell is cast, and they are sent to Silverhand's Sanctum in Sigil.
Sorry, I forgot the specific thing. Yes, I forgot because it gets really annoying and confusing. But suffice to say, a wish spell goes awry. Instead of accomplishing what it was supposed to do, it summons the players to Sigil, where they meet Illustrial Silverhand, Mordenkainen, and Tasha. Now, I kind of like this as a inciting event for an adventure. I think that if you ran, well, basically an entirely different chapter 1, or worked this into like another campaign, like if you were running Descent to Avernus and like you threw in like a little bit where they like run into a cult of Vecna, this would be a really cool hook for like, you know, your players have retired, or their adventurers have retired, or they've gone off to do other things. They've all scattered, especially if like you were running like a Sigil campaign or a Spelljar campaign. They've gone to their home multiplanes, but then they're all sucked back together. I think that could be really interesting in theory.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, there was something that was cut here, or ideas that were not developed, because there are plenty of D&D published adventures that are like level 1 through 5, level 1 through 10, level 1 through 12. That's like, yeah, maybe you ran one of those and you're running one of those and you stick this first chapter in somewhere, and then they go back to whatever else they were doing, running some one shots from Candlekeep Mysteries or keys from the Golden Vault or something, and then then boom, we go on our epic level adventure, right? Mm-hmm. And I like the idea that the players are summoned by a wish spell gone awry. That's kind of interesting.
It's a cool idea, yeah.
The problem is, and the interesting thing is, like, meeting these NPCs, they should be able to answer like a lot of questions about Vecna and stuff. We're not really given like a nice table or list of bullet points of like, what do all of the Wizards 3 know about Vecna, and what will they tell the characters, right? This could be like our cool, you know, Council of Rivendell strategy meeting. We're also not given any reason why, other than the Wizards are busy fighting Vecna elsewhere, that they can't do the main quest.
They can't help at all. They could do nothing except answer some basic questions, and not very well, and send the player characters through some portals.
So they believe that they have the wish spell didn't reveal Vecna's plans. Instead, it brought them the player characters, which the Wizards believe is the universe's way of telling them they're the champions to stop Vecna. They have a chime of exile that they believe will banish him back to his home plane of Oerth, aka Greyhawk. If he's a god, like, how? They also believe the Rod of 7 Parts will weaken him. Again, we're not given an explanation of how. It's a rod that is an artifact of law against chaos. I always thought Vecna was either lawful evil or neutral evil.
Yeah.
And then they need the characters to get the parts. Again, why? And then, of course, we're told that Mordenkainen is actually cast the Betrayer in disguise.
Which is just confusing. I'm not sure how this adds to anything.
Well, Rob, can I run you through Cass's plan real quick? I've tried to type it up. Okay. So Cass's plan is very simple.
I've read
very,
it, Matt,
very simple.
But tell it to me again.
He wants to betray Vecna again, because that apparently can be his only motivation. He wants to, and remember, Cass is the vampire. He's got a sword in the DMG, and, you know, he cut out Vecna's hand and eye, etc., etc. This might be the part you're familiar with. By the way, the sword of Cass and the hand and eye of Vecna do not make an appearance in this adventure.
Do not appear in this adventure. Sir, not appearing in this adventure.
Yeah. Step 1, find the Rod of 7 Parts across the multiverse. Step 2, impersonate Mordenkainen in front of 2 of the most powerful wizards in existence. 3, trick someone else for some reason to go get the parts for you. Step 4, take the parts from whoever got them from you and then convince them to leave you alone by saying, I'm busy. Teleport to Pandemonium using the powerful wizard you're hanging out with portal and free Miska the wolf spider. Arrive at Pandemonium, wait for Miska to free himself by going back to your house and pacing around and brooding. And then step 7, co-opt Vecna's ritual for yourself when it happens somehow.
I have nothing to say. I at no point do I understand Kaz's motivation or
he wants to betray Vecna, but it's
right.
Just,
sorry, I mean, I understand his motivation against Vecna. Why he is doing any of this particular way remains utterly incomprehensible to me.
Yeah, why not just go get the Rod of 7 Parts by yourself? Like, I get you don't have teleportation magic, but it seems like not a hard thing to do to teleport to places.
Kaz is a very powerful warlord vampire. I'm sure he could figure it out. Yeah.
And the game gives him a artifact, the Crown of Lies, that's just like, despite the fact that like both Tasha and Silverhand like have detect thoughts and see invisibility and like true sight.
True sight. Yeah.
He has an artifact that negates that. So so the other problem with this plan of like, hey, you were working for the villain all along, is the players don't really have any way to know or suspect that they were working for the villain all along until the very end. So when Kaz is like, actually, it was me, Kaz, all along, you're like, well, okay, wow, I guess we heard of you before, but, I don't know. I think it would be more interesting, Rob, for example, if the players had an option to ally with Kaz knowingly, being like, I don't trust this guy, but we need him. He hates Vecna too. And then, of course, curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Yeah. I just find this frustrating. I don't really like see how this serves the narrative or is interesting in any way, because it's secret information that only the GM knows. The players can't find out. You're keeping a secret for 10 chapters that doesn't really matter and can't affect the game, but it's still going to be annoying when the players are like, oh no, we've been working for some vampire the entire time. Like, this is what happens when you like work backward from like the story you're trying to tell instead of try to design an adventure. Like, this is
they started with Vecna and Rod of 7 Parts, and they were unwilling to cut either of those.
Yeah.
The problem also is Vecna is sidelined. You actually don't meet or see Vecna until the very end.
I meant to bring this up in the big picture, but also it sort of like relates to the first chapter, because you fight a cult of Vecna in the first chapter. Listeners, do you think that you encounter that cult of Vecna again? No, you don't. Do you think that Vecna has any sort of like influence or impact anywhere else in the adventure? No. No, we've complained about this before. This is not a unique problem to this adventure, but it is something I think that at this stage in role-playing game development, every writer and designer should be aware of as being a problem. Like we've gone past the age of like Asarak, who is in this adventure, by the way, is waiting at the end of the Tomb of Horrors and just like sits there until you arrive at the violent punching bag. No, it is more fun. This is why Strahd, Curse of Strahd, also in this adventure, is a well-loved module, because it is written in such a way that Strahd is active, proactive. He reacts to events and the players meddling. That's
Rob,
fun.
You can't expect the god of secrets, hidden knowledge, plots, and scheming to ever try and scheme or plot or thwart your players, can you?
We'll get to this if we bother with like how to fix this adventure, but like the number one thing that I would do to change this adventure is I would make Vecna actively involved in thwarting. See, this would actually be a good reason for Kaz to be disguised as Mordekainen, because that would give Vecna a reason to try to stop this plan, where he might not care what Mordenkainen is doing. He does care what Kaz is doing. And that would mean that he would send his agents and try to influence, the course of events. But the way that it actually is just, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. I don't like it.
Yeah. And then, I mean, this basically sets up the 200 pages of this 256 page book where every chapter, the players open a portal in from Sigil to the dungeon they have to go to. And they either go straight into a dungeon or a dungeon with a little bit of area around it. They go get a piece of the rod. There's often another fetch quest or MacGuffin they need to get first. They bring the piece of the rod back and, Kaz is like, good job. And then they do it again. And I was like, okay, so we're going to go to Eberron. The Eberron one's going to be like a fun mystery. We're going to go to Greyhawk. This one's going to be a classic dungeon crawl. Okay, that one kind of was. We're going to go to Spelljammer. It's going to be a trip through the stars. No, they're basically all dungeons.
There's one of these that I'm particularly mad about, but I'm sure that you also have one or two, Matt. But yeah.
Okay, back on course, Rob.
Okay.
Part 2 of chapter 2. That's where we are so far. 48 minutes into this episode.
That's where we are.
And it's a Lolth-themed dungeon.
That's right. We finally met all of our wizards. We finally have a plan. We have the Chime of Exile. And the first piece of the Rod of 7 Parts is in Web's Edge, which is, like Matt said, it's a Lolth-themed Underdark dungeon full of drow and spiders.
Now, you might be saying to yourself, I looked through the outline of this adventure just like Matt and Rob told me to before reading it in depth. And I noticed at the end, Lolth has allied with Vecna in a war between Vecna Lolth versus Miska the wolf spider and Kaz. Is this important at all? Does this matter?
No, it does not. No, it does not. Do you think that this is do you think what happened here is this designed by committee, Matt? Do you think that this is 10 Wizards executives got into a room and were like, let's have these things. And that's why we have this adventure that doesn't connect and doesn't make any sense and has all of these things, but no real cohesion to them. That's sort of that's what it feels like to me.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out what went wrong here. The lead on this project was the co-developer of Starfinder. They worked for Paizo and Kobold Press for many years. They're not new to this game. So on the one hand, the shittiness of this product does point towards committee/corporate higher up meddling. On the other hand, there are some designers here that have also written some adventures that we have thought kind of suck in this sort of way, Strixhaven, Curriculum of Chaos, and at least one other that's just damn, do these people know how to write an adventure?
Let me say two nice
things. I don't know
the
answer.
I don't know either. There's no answer. But let me say two nice things about this chapter. One, the map of the Wizard's Sanctum is really neat. It's really pretty. I really like it. It's got some great art. It is not important. You will probably never use this map. It has no real relevance to but I really like it. I think it's very artfully done. It's super, super neat. I would borrow it for a different adventure. The second thing is that I think a spider dragon is a really cool monster.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to fight a spider dragon. Wow. Who would have thought of putting a spider and a dragon together? Lolth. That's who.
Lolth would have. That is a very Lolth thing to think of. Anyway, a cool final baddie in Web's Edge. So that's two things that I didn't hate about this adventure.
I think having Sigil as your home base is cool too.
Oh, that's true. I do like that.
If you can get Sigil the cage,
it's annoying because you're not encouraged to do anything else in Sigil, and you don't, but yeah, we do actually have Sigil books now, so you could, if you wanted to, try to flesh out the Sanctum. But
okay, so fetch quest 1 of 7 is down.
Yeah. You find the first piece of the rod, and then it tells you to go to another place.
Or you go back to the sanctum and the wizards open up the portal again for you and say, off you go again. We'll be chilling here dealing with Vecna. And the next place opens in the middle of the astral sea. And I'm like, oh, cool, Spelljammer. We're given the basics of astral sea mechanics, of thought flight, of not eating or drinking. And then the players are immediately dragged into the orbit of a large gravitational body. So after the first encounter, none of these things matter.
Nope.
You can't fly anymore. I guess you don't have to eat, drink, or go to the bathroom. But you're dragged to a body, you're attacked by anglerfish, and then you land on the body of a dead god with a crashed Spelljammer on it.
Now, I will say, even though this is actually pretty sort of like middle of the road for Spelljammer, a wrecked Spelljammer on the corpse of a dead god is a much more interesting setting and dungeon than anything that has happened thus far in this adventure. You find the Lambent Zenith, which is a crashed Spelljammer, and you are once again thrust into a fetch quest, but in a slightly more interesting location to me.
Right. There are two things to me that don't make sense about this. So there's a corpse of a dying or dead spider god and 3 pieces of a wrecked Spelljammer on it. One is the scale. The parts of the Spelljammer are mere 100, 200 feet away from each other, yet none of the many wrecked crew and passengers on the Spelljammer book ship have ever ventured from their piece of the wreckage to the other because of predators and attacks. And I'm like, y'all are all fairly competent crew. No one's risked. In D&D terms, it takes 1 round to go from those two. So to fix this, you should make the body of the god miles long and
bigger.
Filled with dangerous creatures. I don't know why they didn't do that. The city of the Githyanki is built on a god corpse, and the god corpse is miles and miles long. It's huge. Why not do that? The second thing that you need to do to fix this one is, I don't know, if you're promising your players like a little taste of everything that came before, why have the Rod of 7 Parts on the Spelljammer? Why not say, well, this Spelljammer had it, but someone stole it from them, destroyed their ship, and left them wrecked for dead here. However, if the players can save the crew, repair the ship, they maybe all the officers are dead, they can now fly the Spelljammer after the pirates who took them and take the rod back. Then you can have a classic Spelljammer adventure. Nope, instead you just get a dungeon.
You get a dungeon. I do want to say that I really liked the crew of the Lambent Zenith. I thought they were interesting and much better written than most of the other NPCs that we encounter in this adventure. There's all your classics. There's Githyanki Knights, and
they're both bosuns. They're both bosuns of the ship. They're co-bosuns. It's like having co-captains.
Ships have 2 bosuns. Yes.
Is that correct? Or
no, it's not. It's not.
Okay, I was
it's not usually.
I saw this and I put it in my notes. I'm like, Rob's going to be mad that there's more than one bosun.
I've memory hold a lot
bosun and bosun's mate.
I don't know why they're both bosuns. No, but they've got cool art and there's interesting people, and this was, this would be fun to run in a different context with a little bit of tweaking, which is not what I can say about most of the other adventures. But yeah, you got to go through the wreck of this ship, and then you go into the dead god's heart, and you fight a thing, and you find the rod.
Spelljammer is my favorite, as you know.
I know it's
Rob.
your favorite.
So I took the most notes on this. And I think this is the other big failure of this adventure. So we talked like, hey, the big structure isn't fun. Doing the same fetch quest to go to a dungeon isn't fun. Having no agency isn't fun. But the structure of these dungeons are also can be like you pull at any of the threads, and things like the scale that I mentioned before just don't make sense. Like it says here that the captain of the ship during a voyage uncovered a piece of the Rod of 7 Parts. And the spider dragon in the previous dungeon recently took a piece of the 7 parts from the abyss up to this thing. Like, when did Koss find the lore that told him where the pieces of the rod of 7 parts are? And like, how does he know that they all just moved here and like where to go it? That doesn't make sense to me. The other thing is that every single dungeon here, instead of playing up to the like level of the characters, which probably by this point is somewhere between 12 and 18 when they're doing these dungeons. So the characters are going to have access to flying magic and teleportation and stuff like that. Instead of letting them solve problems with teleportation, but giving them bigger problems that can't be solved by teleportation, dungeons here will frequently throw up baffles and things. The rod is in a room that is magically sealed. You can't use pass wall or teleport. The whole island in the astral sea they're floating on, teleportation doesn't work, right? It gives you a random portal instead. I think that's lazy.
It is lazy, and there's a couple of really egregious examples of this later on that made me so mad I did almost throw my laptop across the room. This is just very annoying. But yeah, Matt's right that, and this ties back to what I was saying earlier. This dungeon will provide no challenge for a group of level 12 players, like in terms of combats, in terms of solving problems. The only obstacles will be annoying, like Matt said, baffles, things that they have to follow a specific, pre-written set of tasks to defeat. There's nothing clever or creative. There's just a bunch of tedious busy work. It's again, I liked the crew. I think the players would have fun talking to all these NPCs, but
there's an imposter that's a death slot. I think that works okay, but there's a couple things that like don't make sense. Let me highlight
a lot of things that don't make sense.
Two.
One thing, sorry, Matt, let me know if I got this wrong. Yeah. And this is maybe just astral plane stuff, but there's no indication of how long they've been here. Like
we're not given.
Very unclear if they've been here for days or decades. Like it could be either. Like yeah. There's and the NPCs are not helpful on this point. I suppose it doesn't matter to the players, but it was always bugging me the entire time I was reading this. I'm like, how long have they been here? Anyway,
if they had just crashed a day before, it would make sense that maybe they haven't gone to reach out to their crew literally 200 feet away. But that's not the case.
It does seem like it's been longer than that. Yeah.
There's an intelligent blink dog that can speak common. That's fine. That's cool. There's a lot of like cool things. But here, let me give you an example of how things seem not very well thought through. In the prow of the ship is the captain. Quote, she is determined to escape the wreck and reunite with whatever remains of her crew. Though she worries the rod piece will be stolen by raiders if she leaves. Why? Why is she worried? Have there been raiders? We're not given any indication that that's a thing that could happen or a table. It's 400 feet to the farthest crew member. It's 200 feet to the shortest. Also, she's a powerful diva. Mm-hmm. She can't get there maybe because she can't fly anymore. Her prosthetic wing is broken. Let me read you something from her stat block. Quote, change shape. The diva magically polymorphs into a humanoid or beast that has a challenge rating equal or less to its own and back to its true form. She can just polymorph into a goddamn bird if she wants to fly there. Like, and then also, Rob, quote, the rod piece was consumed by a hurtaloid lurking within its heart. The rod's stolen anyway. So, yeah, I think it's more interesting, Rob, as I would make her the like former lieutenant or like sergeant or chief seaman of this ship, and have all the officers have died in an attack, right? That would make more sense, and maybe make sense why no one knows the complete story, no one's acted, and then the players can show up, and maybe if they can repair the ship, they can become the officers for a short adventure. The second thing that also just does not make any sense is one of the crew is captured and shoved into the rig. The captured crewman is a Kodal. The captured crew person she is trapped in small cells with thin iron bars that line the center of a hallway. Sirit has been trying to escape since she's been thrown into the brig. Here's again from her stat block. Quote, change shape. the Codal magically polymorphs into a humanoid or a beast that has a challenge rating equal or less to its own and back to its true form, including snake to go through bars, crab to go through bars, bear to break the walls, elk to break the walls, elephant to break the walls, ankylosaurus to break the walls. Getting out requires a DC 15 strength check. An elephant has like a 24 strength. Was she really trying to get out? Is everyone here fucking with us?
I like your suggestion. I think a much better adventure would be the players find this wreck. They were attacked by raiders and they stole the piece of the rod. You have to help them repair their ship and then go after the raiders. That would be a classic Spelljammer adventure.
The Hertaloid could have swallowed the Spelljammer helm. And so the final task is to go down, kill the Hertaloid, get the helm, bring it back up.
That would be a classic adventure. I just like, it feels like they didn't even try, Matt. That's the really like depressing thing is like, they just like didn't even bother to come up with an idea. You know, they had like, a prompt and they were like, I don't know, fit this dungeon model to the prompt. It's bums me out.
If the characters have no way to see the invisible ward runes, the MacGuffins they need to get the rod, Captain Inda lends the party a lantern of revealing, which says invisible creatures and objects are visible as long as they're in the lantern's bright light. Now let me also read you the text of the character ability all characters have. Vecna's Link. You gain a special intuition for secrets. You have advantage on all wisdom insight checks. In addition, you can use an action to cast See Invisibility without expending a spell slot. See Invisibility. You see invisible creatures and objects as though they were visible. I think your idea of written by committee, no communication, does make a certain amount of sense. And maybe they were told it's got to be a dungeon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how this could have been produced because, yeah, like you said, we know some of these people have written adventures. They know how to write adventures. Yeah, it's.
I mean, I don't want to make too many excuses. Like, maybe they're just bad at writing adventures. Like, I don't know. This one sucks.
This is bad.
Sorry.
Sorry, everyone. We have five more parts and then 2 additional chapters before we're done. So
plus our suggestions for fixing it, plus some other big picture takeaways. So
if you liked this, stay tuned for part 2, especially since it starts with Eberron, and you are going to hear me fucking hollering.
Rob will be playing the role of Matt for the Eberron chapter.
For the Eberron section. I do think this was worth reading, and I do think it sort of like confirms some of my worst like fears about the state of Wizards of the Coast and the future of the game and the company. But yeah, it's not great.
You got to be good at writing adventures if you work for Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sorry.
You do. If nothing else, you have to produce good adventures. That's just, yeah, if nothing else. Okay. So thanks for listening, everyone. More of this to come in the
see you very soon,
near future, and keep rolling them dice.
You better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance.